Media TechCon, the former TechCon, we are recording a live podcast, which is the TechReview, which happens every week normally. And this is a special edition. So we like to inform you that this will go out live. So if you don't want to be seen, then you hide between one of the pillars here. Otherwise, we are happy if you interact with the colleagues here. And I think I hand over to you because you can explain it much better than me. I'm really happy to have you all here again and looking forward to a good exchange.
Thank you very much. Yes, and welcome to TechReview episode 64. I had to look it up. It's really great. And last year we were already here on stage and we said we will be back, and we are back. So thank you all for showing up. TechReview is a collaboration of Ideas Engineering, Free Tech Academy, and Update. So those are us. And you, of course. So while we are sitting here and discussing the latest news and the biggest things that happened in the news today, or the last week, you are also invited to join us on the stage. That's why we have like this fishbowl seat over there with a microphone. So if you have an opinion, if you have something to say about the topic that we are going to discuss, just join us and be part of the discussion. Apart from that, welcome, and let's start with our first article. As Daniela just said, this is going to be recorded and live streamed also not only in the internal network but also on YouTube and other social media. So if you do not want to appear there on camera, then please leave.
Don't come here. Yeah, just don't come here.
Right. All right. Let's start with TechReview. Usually I have the soundboard and I press a button and we have nice music, but I was
missing the music.
Yeah,
like at the
we have to do silent
dancing.
disco or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's start with our first article, and this one is coming from Henrike.
From us, actually.
From us.
Because we read the same article.
Yeah.
What a coincidence. And maybe they want to show it on the camera. Yeah. We stick to the overall topic of the Media TechCon, dealing with generative AI and ChatGPT. So we hope you're not tired of this topic at this point.
If you are,
then bear with us. Because that's actually quite a funny one, maybe not for the person that it's about, but it's a very relatable incident that happened to a lawyer in the US. He submitted a brief to the court because they were suing a Colombian airline, and they were filing in a case against them, exactly, and the lawyer used ChatGPT to do some research because he wanted to back the case with some similar cases from the past and asked ChatGPT, like, do you have something? Did something similar happen? ChatGPT delivered over a dozen cases, and the lawyer did something very reasonable. He asked, like, are these real? And ChatGPT was like, yeah, they are. And here are some sources and everything. And so he was like, looks legit. But it wasn't. They were completely made up, and the opposite side, they obviously found out, and now actually I think next week will be a hearing against the lawyer if there will be some precautions, like if he has to, if he can ever file a brief again or not. So for him it's pretty serious, and it's just, we're in a bubble, I guess all of us, we used ChatGPT heavily in the past weeks and months, and we know that we have to fact check, and that not everything that comes out of it is really legit, and we can really trust it. But that he really used it for the first time, and he didn't know. And although he asked, like, is this for real, ChatGPT was just like hallucinating even more, and so it ended up in that scenario right now. So when we also discuss about, I think it was also in a previous tech review where we discussed, like, is, ChatGPT or generative AI replacing human labor? It's kind of, the fear is there that it replaces those who cannot deal with it, right? Who didn't learn how to work with it. And this is kind of a example where he has to learn.
Right, right.
Is there anything in there where you kind of realized, okay, so I have to ask again, or twice, or even 3 times, because very often when you ask ChatGPT a second or a third time, it eventually kind of backs out and says, yeah, well, I'm just a large language model and I'm not quite sure.
No, he did. Like, he used it for the first time and he asked once, and then ChatGPT was like, I don't know if we have this screenshot from that other slide that we made. I don't know if you can read it, but he was like, are these real cases? And like, yes. And then there are like some sources, and that looks legit. Like, and he was like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
that's
I have a more basic question, actually, and I think it's also included in the article that not only, obviously, ChatGPT is making up stuff. We see it with all kinds of language models that they, in the end, are faking a lot of the information they are giving out. So my question, and I hope that this is not going too deep, my question is, why? What is the case behind that? I mean, to me, from the basic point of view, looking at a computer program, to me, it would sound more like a computer program checks if it has this information in its data bank, and it would give back a feedback, something like, I don't know this, I do not have an entry about this. So why do we see across the board making those models, why do we see those models making stuff up repetitively?
Yeah.
Why is that? What is the case? Why is that the way?
Tell us, Chris.
You should. We're all looking at you.
Yeah, why is that?
Yeah.
No, I actually have a great answer for that. And before I give this answer, I just found, I just saw that I did not even introduce us, right? I was so confused by my missing soundboard.
You expected all of them already.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you all know who we are, and I mean, I mentioned where we are coming from. But when I said like Henrike, I thought like, okay, so you know, this is Henrike.
You know it now.
Right, and then we have Alex, we have Vincent, we have Chris. My name is Tarek. Usually, this is all automated on my board, and so sorry for the confusion. But regarding your question, this is probably the most important question. And maybe half of you know, maybe all of you already know. The thing is, the large language model is basically just that. It's not like this general AI that is actually knowing things. It's just a language model that is trained to use language. And this is exactly what is happening here. And we get confused by that. Because we ask cool questions, we get cool answers. But that's it. Those answers sound cool, and they are calculated at some probability that this order of words probably makes sense. And this is exactly what happens here, that this language model got trained with a lot of legal cases and legal vocabulary, and somehow this order of words sound great. Yeah? And even with the questions, are you lying to me? There was a great answer. No. No, even though there's no conscious behind that could actually understand if this is a lie or not. There are ways to circumvent this, but this is basically why there are these hallucinations in large language models.
But this is different than an hallucination, in my opinion, because it is making stuff up that is just not there. So if it would hallucinate, so if you ask it about a case like that, and it would give you back an answer that is completely different, I would understand, because I would think, okay, the likelihood of an answer like that is very high, and in the end, it is not very helpful because it is not about, in this case, it was about an airline, and maybe this is about, a ship company. I would understand, but this is straight up lying. So how come that it is making up information and just not answering badly?
It's even more than that, right? It's really inventing sources. I mean, this is a bit over the top. This is not just the next word in the line.
Yeah, but if we are talking like semantics, it's not true what you're saying. A lie is intentional. Yeah? So if you lie, then you make intentional stuff up in order to reach some goal in your head. This is not what is happening with ChatGPT, because there's no intention of misleading you in a certain direction. It's just, it's not capable of giving a different answer because the probability that these words make most sense is calculated. So there's no bad intention behind that. So I once read exactly this argumentation which said ChatGPT is not a liar. it's a bullshitter. Yeah. So throwing out important sounding words which make sense and everybody is happy, that's like bullshitting, right?
Yeah.
It's not intentional.
It's by design. It's because it's ChatGPT.
Yeah, right. It's a conversational.
It's a conversational thing.
Yeah.
When you start a discussion and someone asks a question and you don't know, you're not sure, and you don't want to stop the interaction in between you and the other person, what are you doing? 50-50 chance that you're right? In a way. Or straight up tell, and the thing is doing it as well, to tell you, I don't have that information. In this case, the chances just went wrong. And the question is, for me, the question is not, why is ChatGPT answering this way? Why is not the person on the other end of the chat checking again if those cases are, I mean, I don't want to put all the responsibility in here, but he's the lawyer. He doesn't sign off on stuff without checking first.
Right. Now, obviously, he does.
I think in that case, I think it's very straight up clear. I'm still confused how these very specific things can be made up, but
I think there are many aspects which actually should be taken into consideration. So first of all, you say that ChatGPT is not the AGI, has no conscience. Microsoft themselves have said in a paper that they see sparks of AGI, so we should put that into relation. But of course, so let's put that into another tech review and into another discussion. so there is no bad intention behind that. I'm with you. But nonetheless, so this is really going far in an asset, creating sources. It would be more honest, actually, just saying by this tool, okay, I don't have the information, so I cannot tell anything about that. So that would be less confusing. And if you want to see ChatGPT as a tool, it would help the efficiency. Because otherwise, you could get into the trap, as the lawyer did in this case, and some bad things might happen. So maybe he has ruined his career or something because of that. So
he was taken off the case, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But the question is, whose fault is that? And I mean, this question is very important for all of us because we are using this tool also in our everyday life. And so, are we liable for the errors that ChatGPT is doing? And I have an answer for that and an opinion.
That's a running gag within the tech review.
But I think the right approach is ChatGPT is a powerful tool, no question, and it can be very useful, especially in our domain here, right? But the thing is, I think you should know how to work with that tool.
Exactly.
So if you have like two left hands, you should not use a hammer, right? And it's the same here. So you really have to know about this side condition that like ChatGPT is or might be hallucinating, might be inventing things and information, might throw up something which is just not true, which is false.
Yeah. But I mean, we do that. We do know that because we're in that bubble. But he is like used it for the first time, really like, okay, this is something that everybody's talking about. Now I use it for my purpose. And I mean, of course, he could have educated himself before he does. But I think it's quite a normal thing that happened to all of us probably weeks ago, months ago, to a lot of us, but now it happened to him now.
Wait a second. Are you telling me that you basically want internet or Google or ChatGPT license before you start using those tools? Because with Google, it's for me the same. I put a question in there, Google answers. I take for granted or not whatever is in there. And either I put it then in my academic paper, and I'm happy that I'm done, or I just double check and triple check before I hand in my paper.
Yeah, that's the difference. So when I do that with Google, I have like a spectrum, lots of answers, right? So I can actually select, and I can also have a look at the sources, and I can consider if they are reliable or trustworthy or not. And this is something which actually happens not with ChatGPT. ChatGPT just gives you one answer, bam, and that's it. And it gives you the impression that it is more or less talking to you, right, like a person. Yeah. And so you just take the answer if you're not used to it, like the lawyer did, and said, "Is that really correct?"
Yeah.
And ChatGPT is more or less lying, saying, "Yeah, it is." then you take that for granted, especially if you're not a technical person, right? If you do not have an idea of what problems might there be existing with a system like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So in that sense, that's what I'm talking about. It should be clear, and now he was one of the first actually getting into that gap. The next lawyer will not do that. So everybody in the lawyer community will have heard about that, and the next lawyer will recheck that information coming from ChatGPT.
So we learn too.
So absolutely. So it's a learning phase which is coming up at the moment. So in that sense, a mindset set is to be created, right? Or has to be created. So that's definitely a precondition for working with these tools. And I think it will be created because of cases like this, because others don't want to do the same failure.
But did you know that this is actually configurable? This is something that probably most of you don't know who simply use ChatGPT in this general user interface. But this model that comes up with stuff that uses certain parameters to decide how to generate this text, and there's responses. And there's actually, you have the opportunity to adjust the creativity of this model. So if you want to have like the best flexible conversation, you make it creative, because then it answers all of your questions with poetic answers and great stuff and stories about everything, and you have like a wonderful conversation. That's a conversational engine.
Is that what we see at Bing? Is that what we see in the configurator when we open Bing Chat?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure you see creative, something in the middle, and accurate.
Okay.
Right.
This might be it. Yeah.
Right.
So in the back end, it's called like warmth, and you can turn the warmth completely down, and you say, no, I don't want to have any creativity. I just want to have facts, and this means it will only answer with stuff that is literally somewhere hidden in this model. This is a very bumpy conversation, because most of the time it will simply answer like,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, but if you want to have like a fluent conversation, you want to have this creativity up, and this is exactly the problem. Because if you're searching for facts, then you don't want to have like poetic whatever answers where half of it is just made up.
Right? Maybe if you want to confuse your listeners.
But then we're back to the driver's license.
Yeah, no, just to this point first, then come back to the license. You also have to know about that, right? If you, again, my point, if you want to use that tool, you have to know about how to use it.
It is a tool. You have to learn how
it's like a car.
Absolutely.
So you have to know where the brakes are and...
Yeah. But the crazy thing, we have to continue to the next article, right? But there's one thing that I'm always loving, because when ChatGPT was introduced, it was introduced as the most powerful chatbot that ever existed. And that's true, yeah? And if you use it like that, as a chatbot, a partner for conversation, it's amazing. But if you use it as a knowledge database, then you're using this tool wrong, right? Yeah. We have a question from the audience.
Yeah, the question is, so is the interface wrong?
Is the interface wrong, the question is.
Maybe the name even. That's a good question.
I mean, maybe if in terms of UI design, you should have like a really big disclaimer in there explaining what you're about to do. This might make sense, absolutely. Yeah.
I think they do that right on the first page, actually.
But nobody reads it.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember? You have the columns where it says, take into consideration that the data is just up until 2021. That's why I'm saying, okay, so punchline is for that one, and then we move on. We need a chat license, a license to chat.
Right.
Right? In a way. We need to educate people. But people have to know.
Super interesting, because I am aware that there is this disclaimer, but I also completely ignore it every time I open the page. So it's probably
Wise.
All of us.
I actually read through it
Once.
Yeah.
In November last year.
maybe.
Because the page was stuck and you had to watch it.
But we have more important news to discuss, and even though we are leaving the realm of ChatGPT, we stay in the realm of generative AI, and there's more interesting stuff happening right now. And this article comes from Chris.
Exactly. So this article is about also an AI-generated content, an AI-generated picture, actually, which led to the situation that one of the biggest stock indexes in the US, the S&P 500, went down crashed last week because of this picture. And what happened? So actually, nothing happened, at least not in reality. But there was a picture going around the social medias, starting in Twitter, and also exactly that one, also some of the television stations actually picked that up. And that is what we can see here. So it's the Pentagon covered in a big cloud of dark, thick smoke, like a bomb or something, right? So this was, as I said, going around the social medias, and everybody who actually shared that thought the whole thing is true, but it was not, it was false, it was a deep fake in the end. And when that actually had been shared and published, that is what the whole thing is about, the S&P 500 actually fell by around, I think, 30 points within minutes, and that pulverized 500 billion US dollars market capitalization within these just some minutes, right? So just gone. Just by sharing an AI-generated picture. And what made the whole thing even more remarkable is that this had been shared also by Twitter accounts that had the blue tick certification. So that is actually a certification saying that the owner of the Twitter account is trustworthy and reliable and has a broad reach and everything. So after the fake actually had been recognized, the stock index came back, so it recovered. But the whole thing shows quite directly, so this is actually comparable with the case before, that the plausibility and the perfection of these, in this case, deepfake images is so good that even professional editors actually jump or get into that trap, and that when the whole thing actually is being published, it can be very disastrous. So as we have it here, 500 billion US dollars, so that's quite a number. And but we also see that it's getting more and more difficult to distinguish between false and true. So that actually, for us as Axel Springer, also creates some kind of rising responsibility with all these technologies, with AI-created pictures, texts, as we have seen that. And so it means we have to check and recheck again and again before we put something out there in the world. Of course, we want to be the first. Everybody wants to be the first. But you do not want to be the first who actually, so to say, fools the public, because then you're the first idiot, so to say. So that's really a thin line we are walking here.
I'm laughing so much because there are so many aspects in the story that amuse me. And one thing is the deepfake aspect. It does not really surprise me. This is like the reality that we are living in right now. But the first thought that I had was, yay, capitalism, and yay, Twitter with its blue check mark. So those are the things that I find way more amusing. Yeah, the deepfake stuff. This is like
Photoshop is out there, has been out there for some time.
Yeah, because I mean, we discussed the whole blue tick Twitter thing so many times, but it's like just another example. You said like distinguish between what's true and what's fake when it comes to the picture, but it's the same with the Twitter accounts, because it's not a sign of being trustworthy anymore to have the blue tick. It's the sign that you took the money to pay for it to get it. But if you're really trustworthy, it's not a, you know.
Will you get verified on Instagram? Just, for the fun of it.
If I would,
for Instagram, for the fun of it.
If not, she's getting verified, the question if she's going to repost that picture.
Yeah,
that's the question we got to ask.
Yeah.
No, I think that also, but actually, exactly that comment shows the responsibility that we have. You mentioned it already. The responsibility that we have is individual, because this did not happen because a big newspaper, one of our brands, one other brand to publish about it or talk about it before that. It was because individuals were posting it. Mm-hmm. So even though we are already aware, I mean, most of us are old enough to have a Facebook account and to be have been actively using it. And there we already experienced the first, when more news became available there, and more pages were coming up. This was exactly the time where we had to understand that not everything is shareable content, not everything we want to share is something, or we think is shareable content, is actually de facto true. And I think now we're at this next stage where it becomes actually more tedious to be an individual creator. It becomes more exhausting in a way, because this is exactly what we have to do. We have to double check much deeper. So what you could say in a way is that we have to learn a lot of journalistic techniques as an individual, just to be active and not only consuming. And if we are only consuming, this would technically break then again the system of social. So therefore we just have to learn those techniques to take part and to drive those platforms further. Yeah, for our own sake, for our own entertainment sake.
Which brings us back to Alex's driver's license.
Yes. But honestly, how does that differ to, I go to Instagram and post nude pictures, let's say. I mean, if it's, whether it's generated pictures or not, whatever I post, it's going to remain out there, right?
Sure.
So even before ChatGPT, even before generative AI, you required kind of a, I don't know, common sense, you would say, then to use the internet. Mm-hmm. So for that, for me, I would say, and I'm old enough to have had a MySpace page, so I can tell you whatever is out there is going to remain out there for some time.
But Alex, because the trust is gone, we used to be able to click on a hyperlink on one of our friends' Facebook timelines and see that newssun24.org/whatever is probably not a very reliable source, potentially. Just like we, before the internet, were able to tell that information that came not via a public newspaper, but some whatever, a note that you were given is probably not trustworthy. Now speeding up to here today, where now not this is only something that we need to check on. No, now we need to even question if we can trust our own eyes or own ears, because there's a filter, there is a picture of some sort. And I mean, we all know those compilations of fakes, of pictures that are horribly ugly, very badly faked, whatever.
Too many fingers.
What? Yeah, more. Yeah, more fingers. I don't know.
Than usual.
Yeah. No, we all know those, and these are fun, but these are just a very, very simple example of what's happening now, where now we have these problems. So yeah, it is in a way like before, but on a totally different scale. And that's what's dangerous. And that's why we need to learn those techniques. Bringing back to the driver's license. But I think, Taro, you have a license already, right? Internet license.
We talked about this beforehand. I actually, in the 90s, I had something like a training that was called the Internet Driver's License. That was back in the day where the internet was still something very new, and you had to learn how to use the browser to get information and stuff. And I still have like a certificate for like module 7 of the Internet Driver's License or something. Yeah, I'm that old. I'm old enough to have a Facebook account, yes.
No, but the question is... No, but
Facebook or MySpace?
Both. I think I still have it.
But to make it real, I mean, the question is, isn't that something that we should now immediately educate in school?
Yeah, and of course, we have to acknowledge that this is the reality that we are living in right now. So things that we see in videos, in pictures, in text, the basic assumption must always be it has been fabricated in some way. And the big challenge for us in tech especially is to find ways to validate the stuff, to invent something like a blockchain-based watermarking system or something like that, or actually use AI technologies to detect traces of manipulation or these things, right? So it's not only the challenge of faking stuff, but it's also the challenge of not unfaking, detecting fakes and validating these things. And I think we are now the generation that has to learn to deal with these things. I could imagine that the next generation, they will grow up with this knowledge that stuff that you see they are just bits and bytes that has been assembled somehow, yeah? So if you see a picture, you don't necessarily assume that it's real. It's just a picture. It can be anything, right? And so this is probably the big challenge.
I think that's perfect then to, like jump off and
Right.
Into the internet.
into the internet. Go back.
Don't forget your driver's license.
Yeah. Maybe we should invent something like the internet driver's license 2.0 or something.
Yeah, I will think of a name and I will ask ChatGPT whatever they.
Right.
What we have to put in there
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
to get it.
I think we're out of time.
Exactly. Yeah, so thank you so much also for the questions from the audience. This was Tech Review 64 with Chris, with Vincent, with Alex, with Henrike, and with me, Tarek. And I'm still sad that I forgot to introduce us in the very beginning.
But at least it's the first time we finish on time. We never
Yeah.
manage after 30 minutes, but today is
Finally.
the day.
Punctual. We're so German and punctual.
Well, let's
So-
go back to work then.
Yeah, and you can find the podcast on YouTube and everywhere where you find podcasts. So feel free to check us out and see you and hear you next time on the internet and latest in 1 year back here on the stage, right?
Hopefully.
Tradition.
Now we have it on tape. She cannot back off.
I said hopefully.
Back out. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you to Chris, Vincent, Alex, Henrike, and Tarek. So